This is Nancy Sawyer, and I'm here for a Pay It Forward talk through Life Coach University. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to take a minute to just get my technology in a good space and up and running. So forgive me while I just kind of figure this out. There we go, that's better. It was taking up a little bit too much and I couldn't even see who was here. So, all right, thank you for joining me today. This is a Pay It Forward talk through Life Coach University. And Pay It Forward is a platform that Life Coach University has created with an opportunity for coaches like myself to come and share topics with you that can help you in your personal development and can help you throughout your life. So we do this for free, and the only thing that we ask in exchange is that you pay it forward somehow in your day today. You can either buy someone a cup of coffee, pay someone a compliment, share something you've learned today. Whatever works for you is all you need to do. And we appreciate that. And it is on a mission to coach millions more. So we want to bring coaching to everyone who can use it. And honestly, everyone can use it. So thank you for joining me today for this Pay It Forward talk. I am just going to make a little adjustment here to my screen. I do, hang on one sec. Thank you for your patience. I do use some notes, and I just want to make sure that they are all available for me as I come share this talk with you. So I am, you know what happens is this keeps on going all big, and that's better. Okay, so this talk today is about becoming a self-care superstar. And I am Nancy Sawyer. This is the Compass Club. In the Compass Club, we talk about living intentionally. Okay, living intentionally means identifying your inner compass and identifying what your values are, how you want to live, who you want to be. And intentional living is taking that compass that you've identified and using that to make choices to do the things that bring you joy, that leave you feeling fulfilled, that keep you in a calm and peaceful emotional state, and do the things that are healthy for you, both emotionally, mentally, and physically, and are in alignment with your values and what's important to you. Intentional living involves taking lots of deep breaths, like I just did, turning off the autopilot, stepping off the hamster wheel, and becoming an observer of yourself. You want to figure out your patterns. You want to see your behaviors. What are you doing? You want to identify your triggers. You want to take an honest look at what you are doing today. And when you do that, then you can create the life that you really want, because what you do every day creates your life. And many of us go through life on autopilot, reacting to things all day long, going through the same motions day in and day out. So when we can step back and learn to live intentionally, that's when we can really create a life that fulfills us every day and start living that today rather than waiting for someday down the line. So thank you for joining me today, and let's get to it. So just a couple of housekeeping things. I am reading from some notes. I tend to go a little bit off track if I don't have some notes to guide me. So thank you for letting me show up authentically as me. I do need those notes. And I appreciate if I'm looking down or looking over here, it doesn't mean I'm not fully present with you. I'm just trying to formulate my thoughts and making sure that I do stay on topic. So thank you for that. I am here for you, present for you 100%. If you have questions or comments, I would love for you to put them in the chat. I'm going to look at the chat, not the Q&A. I think that there is a spot down there for a Q&A, but the chat is where I'll be looking, managing the chat and the Q&A and my notes and myself is a little bit too much for me. So stick with the chat if you're going to create any comments in there. Okay. All right. So today's topic is becoming a self-care superstar. This idea came to me several years ago when I began observing my own life and how I was acting in life and what made me have a great day versus not a great day. A little bit about me. So I took up running 10 years ago. And I realized at first I did it it was a healing thing, which I'll get to a little bit later. But after I became a somewhat regular runner, what I noticed was that on the days that I ran, I was ready for anything. And I felt like a rock star. I was more productive throughout my day. It boosted my mood. I showed up better for others and then everything else that I needed to do. The ripple effect was huge for me. And then on the days that I skipped my running, I was less productive. I didn't feel great about myself. I had kind of blah days. And so as I realized that, I decided to focus on the feeling that I get after I run. I kind of became addicted to that. Like, wow, I feel like a rock star. This is awesome. So I decided that I need that more often and that I would be a better, happier, more fulfilled human being if I could add that feeling into my life more and more. So that would make me feel like I can accomplish anything. It occurred to me that running for me is not just exercising. It's not just a physical act to keep my body healthy. It's actually a huge part of my self-care so that I can go on to have a great day. For me, it's running, I think in part because I picked it up late in life. It has a very special meaning to me. You may have something different in your life that you do that really, really lifts you up. A little bit about me and running. So I picked up running when my mom got cancer. I had grown up and my mom was a runner and she would take us to watch the Boston Marathon and the Falmouth Road Race. And she was a runner. She would run the Falmouth Road Race every year and we would go watch her and cheer her on. And I remember for years saying, running is stupid. I would never want to be a runner. That's crazy. And what happened was when my mom got sick, I suddenly had a great desire to run. And for me at the time, that desire was to run away from what was actually happening and from what I knew would be happening pretty close in the future, which would be losing my mom. So as I started running, it became my therapy. It became how I dealt with grief, with the grief of my mom being sick. And then after my mom passed, the grief of losing her. And that was a very significant part of my life. What I realize now is running is my therapy. It is such self-care to me because now I work through problems in my head and it just really helps me to be present in other things that I do. So maybe you have something else, maybe it's not running, whatever it may be in your life that really makes you feel great, that has helped you, that's been your savior for things. What I know now is that I have to make the time to run because that is my self-care. And when I don't do that, I notice a big difference in how I show up to life. So if you have something that you do in your own space, put it in the chat. Let's move on. I'm just going to take a quick sip of tea. That's also part of my self-care is having green tea throughout the day. Throughout the day, I really enjoy that. Let's move on to the definition of self-care. So in the dictionary, Merriam-Webster dictionary defines self-care as the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. I'd like to add to that definition. I'd say self-care is also choosing to do the things that support a positive mindset so that you can show up as your best self. So self-care is critical to your happiness and your health. Like a phone battery, we need to recharge regularly. Being exhausted, being stressed out, it helps no one. So self-care, it's proven, research has proven it reduces anxiety and depression. It reduces stress. It improves resilience. It gives you increased energy. It reduces burnout. And it gives you stronger interpersonal relationships. People who care for themselves are better at relationships. Sorry, that's my heat making all that clinging and clanking. But it should stop in a minute. So if you're not practicing self-care, what does it look like? What does it look like in your life? It might show up as you being impatient with your kids or your spouse or your coworkers. It can lead to poor decision-making because when we're stressed out, we don't have the brain power to make good decisions. It might lead to sabotaging your diet or your promises to yourself. It might make you want to zone out instead of being productive. You go into just get it done mode. I know that happens for me a lot. Also, I tend to feel very overwhelmed. And most importantly to me, I feel out of control. When I don't take the time to do things for me, I feel like everything is out of control when I get stressed. So the self-care helps you show up as your best self. It keeps your energy up and it keeps you in a good emotional space so you can tap into your good energy. I want you to think about this for a minute. I want you to think of a time when you're in a meeting or with a group of people and someone walks in the room. I'm sure you can think of someone right now who, when they walk in the room, they brighten up the room. They have great energy and it just lifts up the room. Can you think of someone that you know, maybe a coworker or someone in your family or in another group that you belong to that just has great energy and lifts up the room? Now I want you to think about the person in your life, because I know there's someone who walks into the room and brings the energy down. The person who says, it's Monday again. Here we are. The person who is just so difficult to be around because they're always negative. They're always complaining. And I want you to think for a minute about those two people, the people with the great energy and the people with the draining energy. The person with the draining energy, how much time do you think they spend on self-care? I would make a guess that the answer is almost none, almost none. So that's just something to think about. When we take the time to care for ourselves and give ourselves what we need, it allows us to bring that good energy to our interactions. Every interaction we go into, we want to enter as our best self. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, it makes it very hard to do that. So I just want to say to you, self-care is not selfish. It is a gift to yourself and to others, because you don't want other people to get a ragged, exhausted, impatient you, right? You want them to get the best of you, a smiling, happy, fulfilled you. Research also shows that self-care allows you to be more equipped to handle everyday life, and it helps you live longer. So have I convinced you yet how important it is? I have a quote here from Katie Reed. You've probably heard it before. It says, self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of giving what's left of you. I love that one. So let's talk about what self-care actually is. It's different for everyone. There, of course, are the basics. We all, as human beings, we need fresh air, rest, water, healthy food, and some movement or exercise. We just need that. But after the basics, what you want to do is take the time to identify what self-care is for you. We are all very different. We bring our own things to the table. We have our own things we love and enjoy and that have us being fulfilled. So know yourself. Take the time to understand your values, what brings you joy, and discover what it is that you need to feel fulfilled. Taking time to learn about you is time so well spent. Because if you don't know that, you're not going to be able to build a life and build the self-care in that is going to make you happy and make you show up as your best self. We need self-care for many different parts of ourselves. We need it for the physical part, right? We need rest, exercise, movement. We need it for the mental part. We need to rest our brain, okay? We also need to stimulate our brain. How are you stimulating your brain? If you're going on Netflix to zone out or going on social media or being around negative things, that's actually draining to your brain. What about the spiritual side of you? Connecting to something bigger than you, bigger than yourself is very important in your self-care. Understanding that there's a whole universe out there, whatever you call it, nature, God, the universe, doesn't matter what you call it or how you connect with it, whether it's meditation, being out in nature, whatever it is you do. It's important to embrace that part of your spirituality, of your self-care, and make sure you include that so that you can care for yourself. There's also emotional self-care that's important. How do you handle your emotions? Can you allow them to flow? Do you bottle them up and keep them inside? Can you talk through them? So emotional self-care is also an important piece of the puzzle here. And what about your social self-care? Building solid, healthy relationships, having face-to-face time with your friends and your loved ones. Those are all pieces, all those aspects of self-care all integrate to making you feel fulfilled and having you show up as your best self. So there are some questions we can ask ourselves for self-care. We have some criteria here. So when you're planning an activity or looking to integrate something new into your life, you can ask yourself, does this activity uplift me? Does it make me feel calm? Does it keep my things in order? Does it create a calm and soothing environment for me? Does it give me a feeling of peace? Does it allow me to sort through emotions and figure out a problem? Does it help me to feel in control? Does it help me achieve something that's important to me? Maybe it helps you reach a goal, right? Is it in alignment with who I am? And does it energize me? I want to make an important distinction here. Our society and the media tells us a lot of things are self-care that actually aren't always self-care. It's very important to distinguish this for yourself. You have to be honest about what your priorities are. So going out to get a mani-pedi is great, but not if you're on a tight budget because you're trying to pay off your credit card debt, right? So something to think about. What is self-care for you? Going out with the girls on Thursday night is great, but it depends. It's not self-care if you're going out with a group of people who are going to be gossiping and talking negatively. If they're cutting you down or cutting others down who aren't there, that's not uplifting. That's draining. So choose the right people to spend your time with, especially from a self-care standpoint. And again, going out on Thursday night can be great self-care. Maybe you really need that time with some friends, but it's self-sabotage if you end up drinking too much wine and the next day you're hungover and you kind of ruin your Friday. So be honest with yourself about, is this self-care or is this self-sabotage? Saying to yourself, I deserve a night out is okay. And you do deserve a night out. But make sure you give yourself the night you deserve, not the night that's going to mess up your tomorrow. Be gentle and loving and caring with yourself, and be honest, very honest about what you need and what actually is good for you versus not great for you. Okay. So what does healthy self-care look like? It's going to look different for everyone else. It might look like time alone, time visiting with loved ones, pampering yourself. And again, if you're trying to pay off credit card debt, it's not a mani-pedi or a $200 massage. It might be just a bubble bath. Same results, okay? But your budget looks a lot better. So find ways to pamper yourself or to do the self-care that work for you as a whole person. It might be reading a book, listening to podcasts, exercising, watching movies, taking your dog for a walk, keeping on top of your finances. That counts as self-care too. Going for a walk on the beach or in the woods, completing your goals is a great way to care for yourself. Cleaning out your closet, that is self-care too. I have doing laundry, that's on my self-care list, no kidding. Cooking a great meal, it might be confronting someone about how you're being treated. What does it look like for you? If you want to put it in the chat, go right ahead. Buying yourself flowers, I do that about once every 2 weeks. And working in the garden might be. So self-care is also preparing for your future. What can you do to make future you happy? What can you do that's a gift to yourself for later? Maybe setting the coffee pot the night before so that in the morning you wake up to fresh brewed coffee. That's a wonderful way to care for yourself. Several years ago, I led a women's business group. And at one of our meetings, I told the story of how at night before I go to bed, I clean the kitchen. And I do this as a gift to myself because I'm always the first one up. And when I wake up in the morning and I go downstairs and see a clean kitchen, it really starts my day off on a great level. It makes me very happy. And I told this story. I didn't get, some people snickered and whatnot. About a month later, one of my friends came up to me who was at the meeting and she said, when you told that story about cleaning the kitchen as a gift to yourself, I thought you were crazy. And she said, I started doing it a couple weeks ago just to try it out. And she said, you are absolutely right. Now I wake up so happy. It makes me feel so good to walk down and see the clean kitchen. So point being, don't discount how great it can be to give a gift to your future self. So identify what self-care is to you. Maybe you don't care about a clean kitchen, but there's something else that you care about. So whatever you can do. And these can be daily things. They can also be during certain times of the year or certain holidays. For me, Mother's Day, I'm thinking it's March. And so I'm already thinking Mother's Day, which is a couple months away. For most of my adult life, when my mom was with us on Mother's Day, she would get mulch delivered. She'd get a load of mulch delivered, dumped in her driveway. And she'd say, I want you and the girls to come over and help spread mulch. So I have 2 sisters. So we would go over, we'd bring our kids, our spouses, and we'd all spend the day together for a couple hours spreading mulch. That was what my mom wanted as her gift for Mother's Day. Now that she's no longer with me, Mother's Day is a particularly difficult time for me. It's a tough day. There's some grieving, some sadness. And I find for me, the self-care I need to do on Mother's Day is I need to do some gardening. So on every Mother's Day, you will always find me either working in my garden. The last 8 years of my life have been pretty topsy-turvy. So I've been in different spaces. There have been years when I didn't have my own garden. And I actually called a friend and I said, on Mother's Day, can I come work in your garden for an hour? Because that's what I need to make me feel at peace and to help me heal. So this is self-care. It can show up in so many different ways. There might be some other event or day of the year where you just need a little bit extra. It's like giving yourself a hug, right? Giving yourself a hug rather than saying, oh, I should be over this. I need to push through it, right? Self-care is allowing yourself to be human, especially during difficult times. So let's move on. How do you prioritize your self-care? How can you do this? How can you actually implement it? Especially if you're busy, you might have a job, kids, spouse, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, your own business. It's really hard to fit the time in. So what you want to do is assess your needs. What do you want to engage in every day? What small steps can you take to add in every day? Can you schedule some time to focus on that? And then figure out a strategy for yourself. Don't forget to plan for busy times. If you know a busy week is coming up, you might want to say, I'm not going to get to this. Or you might just try to add in a little bit extra here and there. So some ideas of how to implement self-care. Have you considered getting up 15 minutes early to do something just for you? If 15 is too much, can you get up 10 minutes early? What about 5 minutes? Even just adding something a little bit each morning that's just for you can make a big difference in setting up your day for success. It might be journaling, meditating. Maybe it's just sitting and watching the sunrise. Maybe it's having your coffee or tea and just listening to the birds. I do that a lot. Maybe a few minutes of stretching and breathing. If you can't do that into your week, if your week is just too busy, can you set aside several hours on the weekend to do something you want? Or even 1 hour? Can you set aside 30 minutes for yourself to read your book? What about taking a lunch break instead of eating at your desk? I know so many of us have changed that, and we do that. We sit and we eat our food while we're completing our tasks. Can you get up and take a 10-minute walk? What about during break time? Can you go outside and take a 15-minute walk in nature rather than chit-chatting with employees or scrolling on Facebook? So choose one thing that takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes or less. And if you cannot find the free time to do that, consider stopping doing something that is less healthy. So again, I have a tendency, I know so many of us do it. You pick up your phone and you scroll on, oh, I have 10 minutes. You pick up your phone and you scroll on Facebook. Instead of picking up your phone, can you put on your sneakers and go outside? Instead of turning on the news, can you grab your book? Be very intentional with your choices, okay? And say to yourself, ask yourself the question, is this self-care or is this self-sabotage? Okay, what are you setting yourself up for? Self-care is setting yourself up so that your next few hours or the rest of your day can be amazing. Okay, so let's talk about the naysayers. I bet you can think of 1 or 2 people in your life that are around you that when you tomorrow announce, I'm going to take a half hour to myself and go do this, that you're going to get negative comments from. Unfortunately, people are judgmental. People like to comment on everyone else and what they're doing. So it's going to be helpful if you have a couple of responses prepared if you get questioned or get some comments. You can choose to ignore them, of course, as well. You could say something like, I'm doing this for me so that I can show up as my best self. You can say, I've worked hard all day and I'm looking forward to relaxing in a way that energizes me. You can say to your coworkers, I'll be back at my desk in 10 minutes. I need a quick walk to clear my brain, refresh my thoughts. You can say, when the girls want you to go out with them and you're going to stay home and clean your closet, which is self-care, you can say, my personal organization is a priority for me right now. I'm trying to get my environment cleaned up. You can also just say, my self-care comes first. Everyone gets a better me that way. I want to make a very important point here. Don't underestimate how powerful it is when you set boundaries and you make your self-care a priority. You are modeling good self-care behavior to others. By you saying, I am prioritizing myself, it allows others to do the same. It opens the door. It inspires. It creates curiosity. There are always going to be those people that say, oh, she's too good for us now. She's not coming out on Thursday nights. Now she's cleaning her closet. But they will be the people who think to themselves, wow, I wish I had the guts to say no to that. I wish I could prioritize myself. And you never know who you are inspiring. Okay, so it's not just helping you. You are helping the world when you step in and teach people that it is okay to prioritize yourself. I'm also going to throw in a little note here about naysayers. If your friends or coworkers you can't really help too much because we work where we work. But if your friends or the people in your home or the people around you cut you down or say negative things about you prioritizing yourself, you might want to take an honest look at who your friends are and who you're surrounding yourself with. Who you surround yourself with is also self-care. So it's very important to spend time with people who lift you up and who want the best for you. And if the people around you are not those types of people, you might want to think about associated with some other people. That's the honest truth. So I want to talk to you a little bit about minimalism. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I want to explain to you how living in a minimalist way has helped my self-care and helped me become a very calm, cool, and collected person. So as I have evolved and my life has changed due to circumstances in my life, in the past 10 years, I've been through losing my mom. I've been through a divorce. I have shifted careers. I'm now a single mom of 2 teens. And I now have really discovered my purpose and I'm stepping into it, coaching people, and it is amazing. Some interesting things have changed. I live in a much smaller home than I used to live in. I have less stuff. I live a much simpler life, and I am happier than I've ever been. And what I have learned, the more I step into this, is that living minimally means that you can choose to spend your money on things that you need and things that bring you joy. And you choose to spend your time on things that actually matter. It means having less stuff, and less stuff means less stuff to manage, which means more time for you to enjoy life and do the things you love, because you don't have to manage all the stuff. So I would ask you or invite you to consider self-care for me is having less stuff, okay? Because it allows me the freedom in my space, in my mind, to be happier, to breathe more deeply, to feel more comfortable. This can also apply to friendships. I used to have a wide circle of acquaintances and friends, and I'd be going out a lot. My circle has changed significantly. It has become smaller with deeper relationships, a small group of close friends that I would trust with pretty much anything. For me, spending my time with surface relationships isn't my happy place. It's wasted time for me. You may prefer to have a wide circle of friends and a very social, engaging type of life with big parties. The point here is know yourself. Take the time to understand who you are, what you need, okay? Decide what is in alignment with how you are wired who you want to be and how you want to live your life. Make the choices that help you get there. Okay. Self-care is also having boundaries and keeping your promises to yourself. Saying no to that night out that you don't want to go to, or that you're too tired for, or don't have the money for, is okay. Saying no to being on the committee at the school and doing the bake sale is okay, because self-care for you may mean that you need more rest. You need more downtime. It's okay to say no. It is self-care. Self-care is also keeping your promises to yourself. What have you committed to doing for yourself? Is it sticking to a budget? Is it losing 10 pounds? Is it exercising? Is it drinking more water? Is it having a better relationship with someone in your life? A lot of times we say, oh, I want to have this, or I'm going to do this. And then we don't make the time in our schedule or do the activities or behaviors that actually get us what we want. So self-care is looking at what you want to have in your life and then prioritizing that, making time for that. That is also self-care. So as I wrap up here, I'm going to tell you the phrase that I have been saying for a couple of years now. I say it all the time. Self-care is my pregame. Your self-care is about keeping your state of mind and your physical body sharp. I have a self-care list of things that I do that make me feel calm, cool, and collected, and in control. When we don't care for ourselves, our brain gets frazzled. So self-care is my number one priority. It is my pregame, because if I don't do my pregame, I can't show up for everyone else as my best self. I have to be in a good state of mind. When I go into a meeting, when I have a meeting with a client, when I make a phone call, when I go to my kid's school to talk to the teacher, when I have any interaction, I want to show up as my best self. Therefore, it's my responsibility to care for myself so that I can do that every day to every interaction. Of course, we are all human. Some days are better than others. So also self-care is having grace and forgiving yourself when you mess up. It's okay. But when you bring good energy to your interactions, you're going to get better results. So self-care is my pregame, is something I push all the time. For me, my self-care list includes sitting with my coffee in the morning. Sometimes I have a gratitude journal that I write in. Sometimes I just watch the birds. I review my calendar for tomorrow the night before so that I don't wake up and go, holy crap, I forgot about this meeting. I clean my kitchen before bed. I told you about that. I make my bed every day and I keep my bedroom in good order. That is very important to me. I run or work out 5 or 6 days per week. I'm in bed by 10 p.m. I don't check email in the morning until I take care of my own things. I get differing reactions to this when I tell people. But what I will tell you, that taking an extra 15 minutes for yourself in the morning before you hop on the computer or check your email, the world will not come crashing down. I promise you. But you will be happier and more fulfilled if you can make a regular practice of doing that. I actually just recently am working on adding a new self-care routine into my world. I have a couple of coaching friends and we are going to try and go away one weekend a month. It might end up being quarterly, but at least we're going to do it on a regular basis so that we can work on ourselves and on the projects we want to work on. So what can you add? What can you add to your life that adds to that self-care? Self-care does not mean you have to pay hundreds of dollars for a massage. It can be a 10-minute walk outside at lunch. And I just want to finish with self-care is not only a priority. I would say it's a responsibility because no one else is going to care for you. You have to do it yourself. At the end of the day, we lay our head on the pillow and we only have us. It's an opportunity to step in. It's an opportunity to step in and embrace your potential. Okay. Self-care is creating an environment for yourself so that you can thrive as a human being at this thing called life, so that you can develop your gifts, you can find your purpose and live your purpose. We are not meant to be ragged, exhausted, impatient, overworked, and overstressed all the time. That is not living. The world needs you and your gifts. Caring for yourself allows you to bring those gifts to the world. So please commit to your self-care because you will make the world a better place once you step in as a better version of yourself. Thank you for joining me today. Again, I am Nancy Sawyer. I'm an intentional living coach. You can find me at nancybsawyer.com. I do have a membership club called the Compass Club. We meet every Tuesday on Zoom at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'd be glad to have you join us there. And I do teach a course called Intentional Living 101. This has been a Pay It Forward talk through Life Coach University. Again, we ask for nothing in exchange for you joining this talk. You can pay it forward any way you want to today. You can say a nice word to someone else, buy a cup of coffee, whatever makes you happy. Maybe share something you learned today. Okay. I would venture to say you can pay it forward by caring for yourself today, because that's going to allow you to show up to an interaction with someone else in a better space emotionally. I want to point out on Tuesday, March 29th, there is a Pay It Forward conference at Life Coach University. It is hosted by Jody Jackson, and the topic is awareness and reflection. So you can go to lifecoachuniversity.com and sign up for that and join us there. I will be a keynote speaker there as well. And I want to thank you for joining. I'm going to show you one more thing here that I have hanging that I see every day. This little card that says, "Go forth and set the world on fire." Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much. And have a wonderful day.